Hi class. Today's video is about the extinguishment of obligation, and this is the second to the last topic. The last video that I will be uploading is about contract, and good thing about having a recorded lecture like this is that you can go back and listen to it at your most convenient time. So in this topic, we're going to talk about how an obligation can be extinguished, and there are 6 modes to do so according to Article 1231 of the Civil Code. So Article 1231 provides that obligations are extinguished, number 1, by payment or performance, number 2, by the loss of the thing due, number 3, by the condonation or remission of the debt, number 4, by the confusion or merger of the rights of creditor and debtor, number 5, by compensation, and number 6, by novation. So let's go over them one by one. First is by payment or performance. So Article 1232 says that payment means not only delivery of money but also the performance in any other matter of an obligation. A debt shall not be considered paid unless the thing or service in which the obligation consists has been completely delivered or rendered as the case may be. So payment means not only the delivery of money, but also the performance depending upon the prestation. And again, I guess memorize nyo na yan that there are 3 kinds of prestation. That is the obligation to give, to do, and not to do. So obviously, hindi puro payment of money kasi yung ibang prestation has something to do with performance. Take note also na yung debt is considered paid lang, no? As stated here, if the thing or service has been completely delivered or rendered. So example, sa obligation to give, if may utang si debtor na 10,000 pesos, dapat mabayaran ni debtor yung buong 10,000 pesos. Otherwise, the debt will not be extinguished. Sa personal obligation naman, like if you're contracted to sing 5 songs for 25,000 pesos sa isang birthday party, no, kailangan 5 songs yung kantahin mo. Otherwise, the obligation will not be extinguished. Now, talking about payment, no, sino ba yung may burden to prove that payment has been made? Kasi minsan, di ba, pag umabot na yun sa korte, nagkasuhan na, sino ba yung may burden to prove that payment has been made? So basically, si debtor yan. So siya yung merong responsibility to prove na nabayaran niya na yung utang niya. But bago umabot sa stage that the debtor has to prove that he or she has paid the debt, creditor has to prove first that the obligation exists. So yung talaga namang unang nagpa-file, yung nagpa-file talaga ng suit dyan kapag mga bayad-bayad sa mga utang, si creditor, di ba? Siya kasi yung merong cause of action na hindi siya nabayaran. So kailangan munang i-prove ni creditor that the obligation exists. Kasi pag hindi niya ma-prove, pwedeng i-dismiss yung case. So after niyang ma-prove, after ni creditor ma-prove that the obligation exists, the burden of proving payment is with the debtor. So, pupunta na kay debtor yung burden of proving payment. So, hindi si creditor ang may burden to prove na hindi pa siya nababayaran ni debtor. Si debtor yung dapat na mag-prove na nabayaran niya na yung debt niya. Okay? So again, the burden of proof lies with the debtor. And then, magsha-shift na lang yan, no? Kung nag-progress yung kaso nila, magsha-shift na lang yan pabalik kay creditor. Kung halimbawa si debtor nag-introduce siya ng evidence of payment at gusto siyang i-contest ni creditor, kailangan din niyang mag-produce ng evidence na hindi pa naman talaga nagbabayad. So the rule is settled that a receipt of payment is the best evidence of the fact of payment. Kaya very important na kung halimbawang may pinagkakautangan kayo, no, pag nagbayad kayo ng utang, make sure na nagpa-receive kayo. Merong document that will evidence na tinanggap ni creditor yung payment at nabayaran nyo na siya. Hindi naman siya yung literal na receipt na resibo talaga, but it could be a document na ni-receive, no, that will evidence that the creditor has received the payment. Okay? Now, sino ba yung pwedeng magbayad ng utang ni debtor since we are talking about payment here or performance? So, sino ba yung pwedeng magbayad ng utang ni debtor? As a general rule, the creditor cannot be compelled to accept payment from any person except from the debtor, syempre. So, si debtor talaga yung merong primary liability to pay the debt. And the rule is stated in Article 1236 of the Civil Code, which says that the creditor is not bound to accept payment or performance by the third person who has no interest in the fulfillment of the obligation unless there is a stipulation to the contrary. So, general rule, si debtor ang dapat magbayad, pero may exemption as stated in Article 1236. So, therefore, the following can compel the creditor to accept payment or performance. And who are they? So, yan. Number one, we have the debtor. Siyempre, sabi nga natin, siya yung primary liable dyan. His heirs, yung mga tagapagmana niya. Kaya sabi natin before, kahit mamatay si debtor, di ba, pwedeng yung mga heirs niya yung magbayad. So, same. So ito na yon yung sinasabi natin na yung mga heirs is pwedeng bayaran yung utang ni debtor, assignees or duly authorized representative. Number two, the person authorized by stipulation to make payment. So meaning to say, nakalagay talaga dun sa agreement nila na bukod kay debtor, meron pang like specific person na pwedeng magbayad ng utang on behalf of the debtor. So inauthorize siya ni debtor and it was agreed by the creditor as well. And number three, a third person interested in the fulfillment of the obligation. So when we say third person, hindi talaga siya party to the contract. Okay? And sinasabi dito na meron lang right si third person to compel the creditor to accept the payment depending on whether that third person has an interest in the fulfillment of the obligation. So if he has interest, the third person may compel the creditor to accept the payment. Ngayon, kung wala siyang interest dun sa fulfillment of the obligation, hindi pwedeng i-compel si creditor na tanggapin yung bayad. Okay? So, what is the meaning of, sorry, what is the meaning of having interest in the fulfillment of obligation? Ano bang ibig sabihin yan? Okay? Pag sinabi nating merong interest in the fulfillment of the obligation, okay, we could say that a person or a third person has an interest in the extinguishment of the debtor's obligation if its non-fulfillment will make that third person liable or his property be liable for its payment. A good example is yung mga guarantor and surety. So, hindi naman talaga sila yung contracting parties, di ba? Pero, dahil nga sila yung nagga-guarantor no, kay debtor na mababayaran ni debtor yung utang na yon, so they fall within this category na kapag hindi nabayaran ni debtor yung obligation or yung debt, okay, their property might be at stake. So sila yung magiging responsible to pay the debt of the debtor. Kaya meron silang interest in the fulfillment of the obligation. Kasi kapag hindi yun nabayaran, merong impact or merong effect yun sa kanila. So therefore, kung si third person may interest siya sa fulfillment ng obligation, um, compelled si creditor na i-accept yung payment. Okay? But of course, sa mga ganong case naman, no, si guarantor, kung halimbawa man na talagang hindi makapagbayad si debtor at si creditor will go after the guarantor, i-indemnified pa rin naman ni debtor yun. So, pwede pa rin naman yun, isisingilin pa rin talaga yun ni guarantor kay debtor. Okay? So, but of course, si guarantor din, hindi din naman siya pwedeng i-compel na bayaran si creditor unless si creditor na-exhaust niya muna lahat ng property ni debtor and the creditor resorted to all the legal remedies against the debtor. So, that is what we call the benefit of excusation. Pero hindi na natin siya i-discuss deeply. Okay? So, yung sinasabi lang, basta bago, sa halimbawa, hindi pwede na si creditor nag-attempt siya na singilin si debtor, hindi nagbayad, si creditor will go after the guarantor agad. Hindi pwede. Kailangan ma-meet yung mga requirements na sinabi ko, which is dapat ma-exhaust muna lahat ng property ni debtor, or kung hindi man, dapat nag-resort siya sa mga lahat ng legal remedies na pwede against sa debtor. So kung lahat yon hindi talaga umubra, that's the time na the creditor can go after the guarantor. So itong mga to, itong from numbers 1 to 3, they can compel the creditor to accept the payment. But take note na hindi rin naman limited sa mga ito. So, itong numbers 1 to 3, yung pwedeng magbayad ng utang kay creditor on behalf of the debtor. So, ang sinasabi lang sa Article 1236 is that si creditor, hindi siya pwedeng puwersahin na tanggapin yung bayad if hindi si debtor yung mismong nagbayad at itong mga exemptions na nakalagay dito. Okay, so kahit third person yan, walang interest, di ba? Walang interest dun sa fulfillment of the obligation. Pwede pa rin niyang magbayad kung tatanggapin ni creditor. Ang pinagkaiba lang, si creditor, hindi siya pwedeng i-compel, hindi siya pwedeng person. Unlike itong mga to, itong from numbers 1 to 3, they can compel creditor to accept the payment. So for example, friend ko si debtor. Alam ko na may utang siya kay Mr. X. So, pwede ko bang bayaran yung utang ni debtor? Wala akong interest dun sa fulfillment of the obligation. O kung mabayaran ni debtor yung utang niya, wala namang impact sa akin yun. So, pwede ko bang bayaran yung utang niya? The answer is yes. Kung tatanggapin ni creditor. Pero dahil wala naman akong interest dun sa fulfillment of the obligation, pag ayaw tanggapin ni creditor, hindi ko siya pwedeng i-compel or pwersahin na i-accept yung payment. So, yun yung sinasabi sa 1236. So, I hope nasusundan nyo. Now, dun tayo sa third person who has no interest to the fulfillment of the obligation. So, gaya nga ng example ko, ako yung friend ko si debtor, pero wala akong interest dun sa fulfillment of the obligation. May effect, no, yung payment ko depending on whether the debtor has knowledge about the payment or not. Okay, so ito yan. If the payment was made without the knowledge or against the will of the debtor, ito yung effect niya. The payer can recover from the debtor only insofar as the payment has been beneficial to the debtor. Okay, so in other words, the recovery is only up to the extent or amount of the debt at the time of payment. For example, si debtor may utang siya kay B amounting to 20,000 pesos. So ngayon, si debtor, nabayaran niya na yung kalahati, yung 10,000. And ako, yung friend niya, hindi ako aware na bayad niya na yung kalahati. Ang alam ko lang, may utang siya kay B na 20,000 pesos. So, sa pagmamagandang loob, binayaran ko yung buong 20,000 kay B nang hindi alam ni debtor. So, magkano yung pwede kong i-recover kay debtor? Kasi, syempre, i-recover ko yun sa kanya. So, ang sisingilin ko pa rin naman ay si debtor. So, the answer is 10,000 pesos lang. Kasi, yun lang yung amount beneficial to him. Kasi nga, bayad niya naman ay yung 10,000 pesos. So, hindi ko pwedeng singilin kay debtor yung buong 20K na binayad ko. Okay? Kasi nga, the payment was made without the knowledge of the debtor. So, ngayon, ang hahabulin ko dun sa kalahati is si creditor, si B, na tinanggap naman yung bayad kahit alam naman niya na bayad na yung kalahati. So, yun yung effect kapag the payment was made without the knowledge or against the will of the debtor by a third person. But if the payment is made with the knowledge of the debtor, yan, so the payer shall have the rights of reimbursement and subrogation. That is to recover what he has paid and to acquire all the rights of the creditor. So yung difference kapag may knowledge si debtor is that si third person can be subrogated to the rights of the creditor. So when we say subrogated or yung subrogation na minimension dyan, the third person will step into the shoes of the creditor. So lahat ng rights na meron si creditor, mapupunta yun kay third person. So let's have a scenario. Okay. Okay. So Joel owes Joven the sum of 1,000 pesos. If Jason, a stranger to the obligation, so meaning to say si Jason, third person siya, offers to pay Joven without the knowledge of Joel, what are the rights that can be asserted by Jason? So again, what are the rights so without the knowledge? So if the actual indebtedness is 1,000 pesos and Jason paid 1,000 pesos, then Jason can ask reimbursement for 1,000 pesos. So pwede niyang masingil si Joel ng 1,000 pesos kasi the actual indebtedness is 1,000 pesos din naman. But if 400 pesos had already been paid by Joel, then Jason is entitled to be reimbursed only for the amount of 600 pesos because it is only to that amount that Joel has been benefited. Kasi bayad niya na yung 400 eh. So Jason can recover 400 pesos from Joven who should not have accepted it. Okay, na ngayon kung si Joven tinanggap niya pa yung buong yon and he acted in bad faith, Joven can be liable pa for interest in lieu of damages. Yan, may mga damages pa yan. But suppose the payment made by Jason, sabihin natin, twist natin yung scenario. So yung payment made by Jason is with knowledge of Joel. So, ano ngayon yung mga rights na pwedeng i-assert ni Jason? So, Jason can recover from Joven the 1,000 pesos with all the rights of subrogation to the accessory of the obligation. So, for example, kung yung agreement ni Joel and ni Joven, bukod dun sa 1,000 pesos, may naka-collateral na, let's say, bisikleta or any item na naka-collateral, may mortgage, di ba? Or merong guarantee, 'di ba? Yung agreement nilang dalawa. So dahil with knowledge ni Joel, yung payment ko, ako na ngayon yung mag-i-step into the shoes of the creditor. I will be the new creditor at lahat ng rights ni Joven mapupunta yun sa akin. So kung hindi makapagbayad si Joel ng 1,000 pesos sa akin, yung mga nakasanla doon o yung mga collateral na kasama doon, meron na akong right doon because nga subrogated na yung rights ni creditor nung naunang creditor, which is si Joven, papunta kay Jason. So, yun yung sinasabi natin na subrogation. So, Jason will now stand in the position of the creditor. Kaya lahat ng rights ni Joven dun sa agreement nila, mapupunta yun kay Jason. If the payment was made with knowledge of Joel. Okay? So, yun yung difference doon. Yun yung effect kapag si third person yung nagbayad tapos with or without knowledge ni debtor. So, take note that whether may knowledge or wala si debtor about sa ginawang payment ni third person, is still si third person is entitled to recover what he or she has paid. That is according to Article 1236 of the Civil Code. And it says here that if the debtor's obligation is paid by another person, the third person is generally entitled to recover from the debtor what he has paid. So whether may knowledge sa debtor o wala, entitled si third person na nagbayad ng utang ni debtor na i-recover kay debtor yung binayad niya. But what if the third person has no intention to be reimbursed? Anong tawag doon? What if kung yun nga sa scenario, ako yung friend tapos binayaran ko pero wala naman akong intention na singilin pa si debtor. So we called it as donation. So parang it will be in a form of donation na hindi na ako mag-a-ask ng payment from from the debtor. Okay, and Article 1238 provides that payment made by a third person who does not intend, no, ito yung legal basis, who does not intend to be reimbursed by the debtor is deemed to be a donation, which requires debtor's consent. But the payment is in any case valid as to the creditor who has accepted it. Okay, so kung walang intention si third person to be reimbursed, the debtor's consent is required by law. Required siya because the payment by the third person is deemed to be a donation. So sa donation kasi, required talaga na inaccept ni donee yung donation ni donor para maging valid yung or perfected yung donation. So if such consent is given by the debtor, a perfect a perfected donation exists between the debtor and the third person. So kung halimbawang nakapagbigay ng consent si debtor na, o sige, ano, okay sa akin na donation na lang, siya pa yung umokey, no? Pero kailangan talaga mag-consent si debtor na it will be in a form of donation at hindi na siya sisingilin ni third person. Okay? So once na ma-perfect yung donation, if the donation is perfected, hindi na pwedeng i-change ni third person later on yung mind niya at mag-demand siya ng reimbursement. So hindi na niya pwedeng bawiin yon at sisingilin niya pa ulit si debtor na, ay, nagbago na isip ko. Hindi ko na pala sisingilin ko na pala yung binayad ko dun sa creditor, dun sa utang mo. So hindi na pwede once the donation is perfected. Pero kung halimbawang at first, nung binayaran ni third person yung utang ni debtor, ang mindset niya talaga is hindi na niya sisingilin si debtor kasi kumbaga ano naman, friend niya naman, so tulong niya na din. Pero nung time na ginawa niya yon, na gusto niya na parang donation na nga lang, 'di ba? Wala siyang intention na i-reimburse. Pero wala namang consent. Hindi naman niya kinuha or hindi naman din binigay ni debtor yung consent niya. So, unperfected donation siya. Kaya, kung halimbawang biglang mag-change yung mind ni third person, okay? Dahil wala namang perfected donation at nagbago, no? Si third person may still change his mind and choose to recover from that debtor. So at first, wala siyang intention to be reimbursed. Nagbago isip niya, wala namang consent na binigay si debtor, walang perfected donation. So pwede pa rin i-recover ni third person kay debtor yung amount na ibinayad niya kay creditor. Okay? So bakit importante yung consent sa donation? Okay? Because the law respects donee. Okay? If ever na ayaw niyang tanggapin yung gift or donation, hindi pwedeng i-force si donee na tanggapin yung donation. No? Kasi for example, kung si donee ayaw niyang magkaroon ng utang na loob sa taong yun. So consent protects donee from forced acceptance or the feeling of being obligated to accept the gift even if it's unsuitable or it might create problems in the future. So kaya kailangan merong consent. No? Hindi naman pwede na ipuwersa lang natin yung isang tao na tanggapin yung donation, no, kahit ayaw niya naman talaga. So consent is important. This is an indispensable requirement pagdating sa donation. Now, if ever the debtor opposed the donation, diba, diba nag-usap sila na, oh sige, ako na magbabayad ng utang mo, sabi ni third person, kay, in-inform niya si debtor. And then, I do not have any intention naman to be reimbursed. So, okay lang kahit hindi mo na ako bayaran. Pero inoppose ni debtor yung donation. But still, pumayag siya na bayaran ni third person yung utang niya. Payment was still made by the third person. So, again, ang mag-a-apply dito is yung effect niya is ito. Yan. So, ang pwedeng i-recover lang ni debtor is yung insofar as the payment has been beneficial to the debtor. Okay? Kasi, di ba, against naman doon sa will ni debtor. Di ba? Inopose niya yung donation pero binayaran pa rin ni third person yung utang niya. So, ito yung mag-a-apply. But if the debtor opposed the donation, okay, pero may consent siya dun sa payment. Okay, so just to be clear, dun sa unang scenario, inoppose ni debtor yung donation. Okay, pero despite the opposition ni debtor, binayaran pa rin ni third person yung utang. So, ang mag-a-apply lang doon, yung effect lang noon is, ang pwede lang i-recover ni third person is yung amount insofar as the payment has been beneficial to the debtor. But if the debtor opposed the donation, pero nag-consent siya na babayaran ni third person yung payment, kaya alam niya, ayaw niya lang na maging donation, meaning to say, babayaran niya pa rin si third person. Pero pumayag siya na si third person na muna yung magbayad ng utang niya, then the third person becomes entitled to be subrogated to the rights of the creditor. So mag-a-apply yung pangalawa na lahat ng rights ni original creditor ay mapupunta kay third person. Okay? So kung kanina, the question is, sino yung pwedeng magbayad ng utang ni debtor bukod kay debtor? This time, let's find out naman kung sino naman yung dapat or pwedeng mag-receive ng payment. Okay? So, yan. So to whom must payment be made? Yan. So Article 1240 enumerates the person to whom payment to extinguish obligation should be made. So first, yan. So the person in whose favor the obligation has been constituted. So this refers to the original creditor. So basically, ang dapat mag-receive ng payment para ma-extinguish yung obligation is si mismong creditor. Kung sino yung pinagkakautangan, for example, no, kung sa obligation to give, kung sino yung pinagkakautangan ni debtor. So, siya yung dapat na mag-receive ng payment. Number two, his successor in interest. So, ito yung kanyang mga parang heirs na din, mga tagapagmana niya. So, it refers to the person to whom the original credit has been transferred yan, such as the heirs, the assignees, and the subrogated creditors. Kasama yan dito. Sila yung mga successors in interest. Okay? And then number three, any person authorized to receive it. So it does not only refers to those person authorized by the creditor, but also those persons authorized by law, such as yung mga guardian, administrator of the estate, and the like. No, kung halimbawang si creditor at the time of payment naging insane siya, so kung meron siyang legal guardian or administrator ng kanyang estate, pwedeng doon ibigay yung payment. And this is very important because if the payment of the debtor was made to a wrong party, meaning to not to these persons enumerated here, di ba? The obligation is not extinguished. So it's important na kailangan sa tamang tao maibigay yung payment. Otherwise, hindi ma-extinguish yung obligation. Even when the debtor acted in utmost good faith. Or halimbawa, it is through error induced by the fraud of a third person. Yung payment na yon void pa rin siya because such payment will not prejudice the creditor or it should not deprive the creditor of his or her right to demand payment. So, if it is impossible, no, halimbawa may nagpakilala kay debtor na, oy, ako yung representative ni creditor, sa akin mo ibigay yung payment. And then binigay mo naman without even asking for any evidence or mga documents na that would manifest or show na talagang siya yung inauthorize ni creditor, 'di ba? So, in short, na scam ka, 'di ba? So, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-defend later on na hindi akala ko kasi talaga nagpakilala siya na ganito, pero hindi naman pala yun yung right person to receive. Hindi siya inauthorize ni creditor. Hindi siya isa dito sa mga nabanggit. So, still, hindi pa rin extinguish yung obligation. You still have to pay the creditor. And if it is impossible to recover, no, kailangan i-recover mo yung payment dun sa kung kanino mo siya binigay. But if it's impossible to recover what has paid, then any loss resulting therefrom shall be borne by the deceived debtor. So yung consequence nun talagang si kay debtor, siya talaga yung magiging responsible for his own act. So, dapat, kung magbabayad kayo, kung may mga utang kayo, you have to make sure na right party yung pinagbigyan ninyo ng payment. For example, ito. This is lifted from a real case. Ayan. So, where the charge invoice issued by X Corporation, X Corporation is the seller, clearly states that the buyer shall make all checks payable to X Corporation. So malinaw sa usapan nila na si buyer, kailangan yung check na i-release niya is kay X Corporation only. But the buyer issued check payable to cash. Okay, hindi siya sumunod dun sa napag-usapan. And that check was received by X sales representative. Okay? So may personality naman kasi ano siya, representative siya ni X Corporation, 'di ba? pero in-encash nung representative na yun yung check, but did not remit the money to X corporation, then the buyer's obligation to pay the purchase price is not extinguished. So, magdo-double pay ka ngayon. Kaya very important to make sure na sa tamang tao yung bayad. Okay? So, again, this is very clear in Article 12. May na-mention natin kanina. 1240. Okay. And aside from that, Article 1233 also states that a debt shall not be understood to have been paid unless the thing or service in which the obligation consists has been completely delivered or rendered as the case may be. So ito yung doon sa first discussion natin, di ba, legal basis ng payment or performance. Okay? So hindi mo siya mako-consider na bayad na, no, unless sa tamang tao na ibigay yung payment. Otherwise, the obligation will not be extinguished. So, kaya dapat yung payment, again, mai-render siya or mai-deliver siya to the right party. Okay? And it has to be, the payment or performance has to be complete. Okay, therefore, when we talk about the completeness, no, of the payment or performance, that is considered paid through the integrity and identity of the prestation. And so when we say integrity of the prestation, this means that the prestation be fulfilled completely. So yun yung ibig sabihin ng integrity of the prestation. Kailangan the prestation be fulfilled completely. Partial or irregular performance will not produce extinguishment of an obligation as a general rule. Okay, so for example, yun nga, very simple. Si A bound himself to pay B 10,000 pesos, but A only pay 9,000 pesos. So si B cannot be compelled, no? Si creditor, hindi siya pwedeng i-compel to accept the payment. Why? Because it is incomplete. Okay, so hindi pwedeng persahin ni debtor si creditor. Tanggapin mo na, 1,000 na lang naman kulang nito. Pwedeng hindi yun i-accept ni creditor. Okay? Hindi mo siya pwedeng percent. Pero kung i-accept niya, then it's fine. Pero kung ayaw niya, the debtor cannot compel the creditor to accept it kasi nga, yung integrity of the prestation is not satisfied. Okay? And yun, partial or irregular performance will not produce extinguishment of an obligation as a general rule. Next is the identity of the prestation. This means that the very prestation due must be delivered or performed. So, ano yung mismong napag-usapan ng dalawang parties, ni debtor at saka ni creditor, especially kapag specific yung obligation, dapat yun yung ma-deliver. But there are some exceptions to this. Ayan, yung doon sa sa integrity and identity of the prestation. Okay, so ito yung ilan sa mga example niya. So, if there is a substantial performance in good faith, according to Article 1234. So, ang example dito is, di ba sabi natin kanina sa integrity, kailangan complete siya, hindi pwedeng partial lang siya. So, halimbawa si A obliges himself to sell 1,000 bags of cement to B for a certain price. Now, despite diligent effort of A can only deliver 900 bags due to shortage. So, yung shortage na hindi niya naman talaga control, no? Kung saan-saan na siya naghanap ng pwedeng mapagkuhanan ng semento pero wala na talaga. Hanggang 900 lang talaga yung kaya niyang maiproduce. So, si A, gusto niya namang i-comply yung 1,000 bags. Pero again, di niya talaga kaya. The reason is the circumstances is beyond his control. So, he acted naman in good faith. So, si A, pwede na niyang i-recover yung payment kay B. So, hindi rin pwedeng si B, tatanggihan niya na, hindi, deliver mo yung 1,000 bags. Okay, so A may recover as though there had been a strict and complete fulfillment less damages. So, hindi pwede na, saka ko na yan babayaran kapag nabuo mo na yung 1,000 bags of cement. So, hindi pwede. So, therefore, si B has to pay the 900 bags less damages. Okay, kung dahil nga kulang naman, so pwede nang ibawas doon. So kung magkano lang yung dapat na bayaran, yung 900 plus damages, so yun lang yung babayaran ni B. Pero hindi niya pwedeng hindi yun tanggapin. So therefore, si B or si creditor will be compelled na i-accept yung performance. So that's one of the exception in Article 1234. Another is when the obligee or the creditor accepts the performance knowing its incompleteness or irregularity and without expressing any protest of objection according to Article 1235. So pag ganito yung case na nag-deliver si debtor dineliver na ni debtor yung thing that is due and pero dun sa delivery niya, parang merong irregularity or incomplete yung item, pero tinanggap pa rin ni creditor or ni obligee. So, the implication is that si creditor, it's as if pinewaive niya yung right niya. And by doctrine of estoppel, diba, the principle of estoppel, the law will presume that the creditor is waiving his or her rights. Okay? Pag wala siyang inexpress na any protest uh, or objection doon sa um, incompleteness or irregularity ng performance or the thing that is due to be delivered. Okay? Pero remember, dapat alam ni creditor na incomplete and irregular siya. Kasi pag hindi, di ba, if it's tainted with fraud, for example, so napag-usapan natin dun sa isang video na i-discuss ko yan na pwedeng maging liable for damages pa rin si debtor. So dito sa case na to, kung tinanggap niya, then hindi na magiging liable for damages si debtor. Kasi nga, inaccept niya. So it's as if inade niya yung rights niya. So these are some of the exception doon sa requirement ng Article 1233 na dapat yung obligation has been completely delivered or rendered as the case may be. Okay? Yan. Now, if ever na hindi kayang i-fulfill ni debtor yung original prestation na pag-usapan nila, question, pwede bang palitan yung prestation? The answer is yes. Okay? Tawag natin dyan is yung mode na yan, tawag natin dyan, yung substitution na yan. Okay? So, substitution can be made if the obligee consents. So, sabi natin, di ba, dun sa mga determinating before, kung ano yung napag-usapan, dapat yun yung i-deliver. Pero kung pumayag naman si creditor na mapalitan siya, then okay lang. So long as there is a consent from the obligee. So, substitution is allowed. So, meaning to say, pag sinabi natin substitution, the debtor is given the right to render another prestation in substitution. And yung isa sa mga mode ng substitution is what we call dation and payment or dasyon and pago. Okay?